Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for tuning in, and if you're a regular viewer, it's great to have you back. I truly appreciate your time and support. Before we dive into the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoy the content. The world is changing fast and the United States is facing a new wave of global resistance. Many countries that were once close allies are now distancing themselves from Washington, whether due to economic competition, military disputes, or shifting geopolitical alliances. From powerful adversaries to longtime partners rethinking their ties, let's explore the top 10 countries that are turning against the US in 2025. 10. Turkey. Turkey has always had a complicated relationship with the United States, despite being a NATO member. However, in 2025, tensions are at an all-time high. The US support for Kurdish groups in Syria, which Turkey considers terrorists, has fueled deep distrust. Additionally, Ankara has strengthened its military and economic ties with Russia and China. The US imposed sanctions on Turkey's defense industry after it bought Russian S-400 missile systems, and now Turkey is actively working with Briggs nations to reduce its reliance on the West. While Turkey remains in NATO, its loyalty to the alliance is increasingly in question. 9. Saudi Arabia. For decades, the US and Saudi Arabia maintained a strategic partnership based on oil and security cooperation. However, recent events suggest that Riyadh is pulling away from Washington. One of the biggest shifts occurred when Saudi Arabia began selling oil in Chinese yuan instead of US dollars, which threatens the dominance of the petrodollar system. Additionally, US criticism of Saudi Arabia's human rights record and its handling of conflicts in the Middle East has soured relations. Riyadh is now deepening its economic and military ties with China and Russia, signaling a major geopolitical realignment. 8. India. While India has been seen as a key US ally in countering China, it is also refusing to fully align with Washington's global policies. India has continued to purchase Russian oil despite US sanctions and has avoided direct confrontation with China, choosing instead to balance its relationships with major world powers. Additionally, US cooperation with Pakistan has raised concerns in New Delhi, leading India to strengthen its self-reliance in defense and diversify its international partnerships. While India still works with the US, it is becoming more independent and less willing to follow Washington's lead. 7. Brazil. Brazil is emerging as a powerful voice in Latin America's resistance to US influence. As a leading member of Briggs, Brazil is pushing for a multipolar world where US dominance is reduced. The country is deepening trade relations with China and Russia, reducing its dependence on American exports and financial institutions. Additionally, US interventions in Latin American politics and historical economic pressures have fueled anti-American sentiment, making Brazil one of the strongest challengers to Washington's influence in the region. 6. South Africa. South Africa has been at the forefront of the Global South's resistance to US dominance. The country is taking a leading role in the BRICS coalition and is actively working to reduce dependency on Western financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank. Additionally, the US criticizes South Africa's governance and economic policies, which has only pushed the country closer to China and Russia. With increased trade and military cooperation with non-Western allies, South Africa is asserting itself as a key player in the movement against US influence in Africa. 5. Germany. Germany has traditionally been a strong US ally, but tensions have grown due to economic and security issues. One of the biggest factors is US sanctions on Russia, which have caused major disruptions to Europe's energy supply. Germany, heavily dependent on Russian gas before the Ukraine war, is now looking for alternative solutions that don't rely on Washington's policies. Additionally, Germany is becoming more independent within NATO, pushing for a European defense strategy that relies less on the US. With growing frustration over Washington's influence on European affairs, Germany is gradually moving towards a more balanced foreign policy. 4. Mexico. Despite being one of the US's closest neighbors, Mexico is showing growing resistance to American policies. Several key issues, including tough border control policies, economic disputes, and US military activities in Latin America, have led to increasing tensions. Additionally, Mexico is expanding trade partnerships with China, reducing its economic dependence on the US. While the two countries remain major trade partners, Mexico's leadership in 2025 is seeking greater autonomy and forming alliances that challenge U.S. dominance in the region. 3. Iran. Iran has been a longtime adversary of the U.S., and in 2025, tensions are escalating even further. The country continues to expand its military capabilities, conducting exercises with Russia and China and increasing its influence in the Middle East. With U.S. sanctions still in place, Iran is looking to bypass American financial systems, strengthening economic ties with Briggs nations and developing new trade routes that exclude Western powers. This increasing hostility makes Iran one of the most prominent countries actively opposing the United States. 2. Russia. Russia's opposition to the U.S. has intensified due to ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and NATO's military presence near its borders. With U.S. sanctions still in place, Russia is working aggressively to undermine Western influence, forming stronger military and economic ties with China, India, and the Middle East. Additionally, Russia is leading efforts to de-dollarize the global economy, encouraging nations to trade in alternative currencies to weaken American economic power. Moscow's geopolitical strategy in 2025 is centered on challenging U.S. dominance on every front. 1. China. At number 1, China is the biggest challenger to U.S. global influence. Tensions between Beijing and Washington are rising due to economic and trade wars, technological rivalry in AI and semiconductors, military expansion in the South China Sea, Taiwan tensions. China is not only strengthening its military and economic ties with anti-U.S. nations but is also leading efforts to replace the dollar as the dominant global currency. As China continues to grow in power, the rivalry with the U.S. is reaching unprecedented levels in 2025.